Welcome back to another Orcs and Elves tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at map rotations from an Orc perspective. You're going to learn how to position your character in order to effectively synergize with the motion of your team. We're also going to discuss how you can position your Orc in order to effectively cover different routes. And we're going to look at how you rotate from one side of the map to the other. First, this will be a quite analytical walkthrough on how you can proceed in this. There are multiple variations. This is simply a demonstration to teach you the basics. And later into the video we're going to look at some recorded footage of what this might look like in an actual game. So let's dive right into it. So if we have a look at the roaming strategies, the most common one that you will find are to move from the left side of the map to the right side of the map, or the other way around, and you alternate between the two. So if we start off with the left side, what you want to do is to secure these locations, or something similar to this. You keep one Orc in this region at this gold mine. You keep one Orc in this region at this gold mine. You keep one Orc in this passage, or you could keep it in this gold mine if you can get access to this location. And preferably you keep one Orc at this gold mine region as well, but if you're unable to claim this location, you could also try to access this point and put pressure from here. So the only thing you really need to do here is to guard this lane, make sure that no wisps make it out from this region, because no matter where they go in any of the other lanes, you should have a teammate in position in order to kill or injure the worker. On the lane above, you would want to cover this area primarily. There could be enemies coming from this lane on the top. There could be enemies coming diagonally from the bottom. And if you keep this position, you will be able to quite easily cover the two of them. You are also line of sight from this wall, meaning that elves coming from the diagonal lane here will be unable to see you, which could give you an advantage and a possible surprise kill if any elf end up using this gateway. So keep your Orc somewhere in this region in order to cover the two lanes easily. The only real lane you really need to guard is to make sure that nobody makes it out here, right? That's what you really need to pay attention to in this position at this time. And this is, again, assuming that your team have the positioning that I demonstrated. On the area close to the middle here, you want your Orc somewhere in this position. The only lane you really need to cover at this time is this section leading out to the middle and giving them access to this crossroads area. You really don't want them to gain access to this area, because this is where it starts getting difficult for you. They can easily spread, either going to the top, going to the bottom, or going through the middle and then spreading out further on the east. So the objective here, even if you don't gain access to this region because it's being walled off or whatever, keep control over this area. Make sure no wisp makes it out of here. On the top, generally speaking, you want to be somewhere in this position. Don't bother too much about the left side of this gold mine. Instead, focus on covering the lane on the top and the lane on the bottom. And if you keep your Orc somewhere in this region, it will be easier to walk between the two of them and threatening any wisp coming to either of those two locations. So try to cover this one and cover this one. So the objective, right, you're defending different lanes with every player, and if the elves are unable to walk towards the lane that you are defending, they will be forced to take another route. So in this top location, for instance, this lane will be open and available to them, and this lane will be available to them. If they go for this one, you are zoning them towards the left. This is an edge of the map, they can't really get out of this position. There is no other way, right? Yeah, sure, they can go into this one and they can go further down the bottom left, but they can't get out of the contained scenario that you have put up. If they take the route towards the bottom, they will run into your teammate in this position. And from this position, the available routes they have are over here, and they will either walk further away into the edge of the map in this section, or they will walk further down into this location. But even here, if they try to get out here, you have another friend in this location blocking their escape route. So if they can't make it out here, they might try to go further into this section. And then, again, closer to the edge of the map, closer to the bottom left corner. And if they try to make it out here at the bottom, there's another orc covering this route. So wherever they go, they will either run into an ally, or towards an edge of the map, or further towards a corner. So what you ultimately want to do, you keep zoning them and force them to take a route they don't really want to go. Or rather, they might think that this is the perfect route to escape from, because they don't have vision of all of you, meaning that you make them walk towards your allies, or towards a place where you can more easily trap them. So to proceed from the positioning now, you usually want to move one of the orcs. You can do this in multiple ways, it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you follow the principles that I just explained, making sure that there is no, let's say, obvious escape route to take. So you can move this orc from this position to this position. What you really need to do here is to cover this passage primarily. You could also cover these two passages, depending on the positioning of this orc. It's more difficult, obviously, to defend a route that is, or like a location with many different escape routes like this, because there's so many points of entry and exit that you will have a more difficult time if there's a lot of enemies in this area to defeat all of them with a single player, but that is still an option. But if they slip by, don't worry too much about it. If they get out, don't run after them, waving your arms and trying to kill them. Instead, hold position, keep formation, and try to continue with the net formation that you're setting up in order to kill more wisps later. So from this top position, you move further down, you place your orc somewhere in this region, giving you access primarily to these two passages that you need to worry about. And the orc here can put himself in this position, only really needed to guard this route. Assuming this gold mine is clear, this orc can move down in this position at the bottom here, covering this region, making sure it's clear, only really needing to guard this position in order to ensure that no one runs out without there being an ally that they will run into. So when this gold mine is clear and this gold mine is clear, you put the two orcs towards this lane on the top and this lane at the bottom. At the same time, your friend at the bottom could gradually progress towards this region where they can cover the two slots here, clearing out this mine, making sure primarily that nobody escapes in this route until this area is clear. So you might see already what I'm about to do here, but as you move in this position, right, you are getting the elves much closer to one of the corners here, and they will be stuck somewhere in this area right here. Anyone that didn't make it out will be zoned towards this location. So what you do now is that you clear out this position over here, make sure that no wisps make it out in any direction. Then you clear out this section, making sure that no wisps make it out in any direction. You can cover this route primarily and this route primarily in this section, and here you need to cover the two of them. So from here you can put one orc in this location at the gateway. You hug the wall to the left, making sure that your orc is as close as possible to this wall and as close as possible to this natural blocker. Then you put your orc on hold position, very important. Make sure you have hold position on. This will body block this area, making sure that elves can't use this passage at all. So on the middle here, you have one orc in this section, and you have another orc in this section. If you do this properly, similar to this, you will have this region covered very well, and all the wisps that did not make it out should be in this region. And as you can see, now you have a complete surround. All the elves are grouped up in a small proximity, and you have 3 players in position to kill them. So the objective here are to kill as many of them as possible, make sure they don't slip out, do the best you can to injure or kill all the workers in this area. You will most likely find about 2 or 3 wisps in this section on average. You could get a lot more, but even if you have a lot of players in this region, it might not be to your advantage, because it's more difficult for you to kill many of them at the same time if all of them are alive and end up in this location. So what you do now is you try to kill all the wisps in this region. Some of them are possibly going to escape, And if they do, you have backup over here. Notice the positioning of this orc. We kept him here on purpose for this demonstration. He did not really need to progress or move anywhere further. So why do we keep him in this region? If an elf escape in this lane, for instance, this orc is in a pretty good position either to cover this gateway, where the elf could possibly escape once they make it here, right? They could go for this gateway and escape diagonally, or they can go from this passage at the bottom. In this position, you can cover the gateway very easily, and you can also rather easily reposition in order to get down to this passage and intercept any possible escape attempt. If there is a worker escaping from this section, you will have them ending up in this location most likely. If they go to the top here, you could move this orc up in this location in order to intercept the wisp trying to escape here. What you could also do is, if they escape in this direction, you have this orc in position to cover this position as well. If you do this properly, even if they run by the initial guards, you have a backup that can finish off the escaping workers. So that will do it for the left side of the map. I hope you understand this principle and see that it can be quite effective when you do this appropriately with a coordinated team. So now, if you take a look at the right side of the map, what you want to do is, you prefer to keep this position at the beginning. You want to be somewhere in this region, at this location, with another orc. You want another orc somewhere in this region, and one at the bottom. You could be either where I am right now, or you could also be in this section. So what you do from here, similar principles to the left applies. You need to cover the escape routes, right? On the bottom, this one is the one you need to prevent escapees to enter, and this is another one that you need to defend. So you could also keep your orc in this position defending this route and this route, but if you keep your orc here, the main one you need to defend is this one, because you also have a teammate up here being able to cover the two of these. And that's also why I keep the orc in this position. But however, the primary one from this mine above are that you need to cover the passage leading out to the middle, because this will be the most easy way for the elves to gain access to and escape from otherwise. Because even if they make it down here, you will still have an ally in this region with this positioning. On the middle, try to keep your orc in this section. You want to defend this position, making sure nobody makes it out there. You also need to defend this location, making sure no wisps make it out in this area. Covering this region, as you can see, many points of entry, many points of exit that the elves can use. You have 6 different lanes that you need to defend, all with one orc. If all of the wisps come into this region, you will be very likely to let some of them out, simply because you can't really do this on your own at that point. But you can do your best to injure, harm, or zone them to other locations. Simply by being here, you're posing a threat to the enemy team, and they will have to find a way out. So either you can try to zone them towards your friends, but you primarily want to defend these 2 lanes, and with this positioning that should be easier. Just know that this position is the most difficult one to defend, so keep that in mind. On the top here, you want to defend this route primarily. You could also defend the 2 in the back, gaining access to this one and this one. But if you defend this, you are pretty safe in general, and that is the primary one you need to worry about. However, if your friend at the bottom here got into trouble, you may also need to cover this one. So, how do you rotate from this side? What I would generally suggest is to gain access to this region first, force all the wisps away, make sure nobody escapes from the passage where you just came from. Once this area is secured, try to cover this location, guarding these 2 lanes. At the same time, on the bottom, what you can do, gain access to this region, control this gold mine position, make sure no wisps make it out in the area where you just came from, then put your orc in this position and stay there. Your friend guarding this gate, guarding these 2 passages, guarding this passage as well, until this region is secure. Then you move towards this section, clear out this gold mine, and then you defend these two positions. On the middle section, once you have this setup secured, now you can move into this lane. Instead of having to guard all of these, you can focus on this one single lane, and it will be much more easy for you to defend this section. Because you have backup in all the other directions, and they need to also slip by your teammates in order to get out here. Obviously, if your friends mess up, wisps get out, or there's a lot of pressure from the opposing team, you might need to go back, cover this region again, but in general, focus primarily on this lane. So what you do now is you can move this player into this gold mine, clear out this position. If the wisps run in any other way, they will go towards your allies or towards an edge of the map, like covered previously. They might also be moving towards a corner, but you can set up a multi-kill later. So once you have cleared out this region, you want to guard primarily these two locations, the one at the top and the one at the left. And now you can move your teammate into this section, guarding this lane, make sure nobody escapes out here. Clear the top mine, get all the wisps out of there, make sure no wisp is hiding in this gateway before you leave that section. You can make it down here into this crossroads area, guarding this location with this orc. On the middle, you move down to this crossroads area, guarding this location with this orc. And this player on this position can then move into this section, guarding this area and putting pressure on this position. So what you do here is that you effectively pressure all the elves to go to where you want them to be. So in this position now, they will be either in this gold mine, on this gold mine, in this location, or somewhere down in this route. And no matter where they go, as you can see, they will run into one of your allies. So what you do now is you clear out this mine with dark green. Doesn't have to be dark green, but some players should clear out this mine, make sure no wisps make it out this way. And then make sure that they run either towards your ally on this side or down this gate. What you then do is you body block this gate, hug the wall to the right, get as close to this natural blocker as you can. Stand with your orc here, use hold position, very important. Make sure to body block that gate. The brown player can now move down here with light blue. You claim one area of this mine each. So one player on this section of the mine, one player on this section of the mine. You pressure the wisps into this corner if they are in this region, and do something like this. You can either do this, pressure this lane with two orcs in order to defend and apply pressure to all the wisps in this region, dealing more damage with the two orcs attacking. This orc at the bottom can guard primarily this lane. Another option is you keep one player at the back here, somewhere in this section possibly, and this player can move down into this lane at the bottom. This will make it so that you pressure the lane with one orc each, gate at the top is body blocked, and they will have to run either this way or this way. So with the player at the back here, you can intercept anyone that try to run. If they run past your friend at the top, you can intercept them with this player. If they run down your friend at the bottom, you can also intercept them with this player. And if you keep your orc somewhere in this position while playing this interception role, you will be able to move quite easily between the two locations where you are where it's most important for you to be in order to set up and finish any kills. So all the elves are either in this region and they need to get out there, and from this position you will set up a lot of kills, and you also have the backup of a interceptor in order to catch them. So that will do it for the right section of the map. Next we'll take a look at what a roaming phase might look like in practice. This is a recorded game of a replay that was played a few days ago, and the orc team contained 2 experienced orc players and 2 rather new orc players, so I thought they would make a good average to look at. So if we look at how they are positioned right now, just leaving the middle area, 3 orcs are in this region and 1 orc are in this region. Teal wisps sitting here, walling off this section of the map in order to set up so that the orcs can't as easily spread out, orange sitting at this gold mine in order to wall off this region as well, so that the orcs don't get as easy access. So starting this replay, let's see what happens. You can see two orcs here going towards the left side of the map. Green orc pushing down towards south. Grey orc coming here. Green wisp escaping on the top through this gateway. If we pause the video again now, you can see the positioning of the orc team. Green player in this section, hammering away at this wall. Brown player going here, covering this lane, just as demonstrated earlier. And the light blue player in this region. On the top here we got the grey player approaching a push towards the east. Resuming the replay, you can see that the orcs up here cover the gold mines, making sure there are no wisp in this region as they rotate around. Clearing this section on the brown player, checking this section on the light blue player. Orange wisp being spotted by on the side here, having to retreat to the east. They notice that the left side of the map is clear and are calling out a swap to go to the other side of the map. So if we pause the video here, you can see the brown orc approaching this lane towards yellow. The dark green orc approaching this lane, pushing the blockade line by purple. You can see the light blue orc clearing this area and checking that again, because elves commonly move back to this region. And on the top we have the grey orc attacking towards the east, trying to cut through the blockade line in order to get to this position. At the same time, a little play by the elves, Pink Wisp, previously using this gateway, coming back down here in order to sneak back to the location where the orcs just scouted in order to gain a full map rotation of harvest value. Orcs are getting in here, brown orc approaching this side, killing the tech tree of yellow, not properly denied or sold. Light blue orc coming into the middle section here, and the grey orc are approaching this area. Notice how the green wisp slipped through this gate from this region into this section, where pink properly walled off the side here in order to create a safe passage for his friend. At the same time, you can see the blue wisp in this region utilizing the opportunity when the orc is in this section, being outside of his vision in this region, and he can freely use this mine to get out of there and possibly transition and migrate to the left side with pink and green if necessary. Green breaking into this position, purple and teal going towards the other side, brown in this location. So, as you can see here, the teal player coming up from this gate, just coming into vision probably of the blue player right now. We can maybe look at this from the orc perspective. Yeah, he's barely within the vision radius of the orc. So the orc could previously not see him when he was in this region, right? So, now, just spotting the teal player, who has an opening right here, right? Because the orc is very far in the northern section of this mine, and the wisp are approaching at the bottom. This is a typical example of what it might look like when you are trying to cover a gold mine with many entries, and you try to cover that area alone. So, the teal wisp going into this region. Let's see what happens with that. Blue orc spotting him, getting one hit. Orcs attacking on the top here. So if we pause this again, notice how the green player transitioned from this position to this position. Brown player going into this position, now scouting the two areas at the bottom. And the player on the top still clearing the walls in order to gain access to this area. The blocker is cleared by the light blue player. I'm putting this in slow motion now. See how he's not trying to go for the red wisp, not diving deep even though this area is open in order to force the wisp in this direction. At the same time, you can see the orc coming down from this region and in from this region. Purple and red getting caught, having to use blockers in order to get into this position. Light blue orc transitioning from this area to get down to another position. At the same time, brown is coming up from the bottom in order to intercept red and purple. Now, getting a hit on the red player. Brown orc staying in this region. Going back to normal speed. Grey orc in this region. Dark green and brown right here. Light blue transitioning down to this position in order to cover these two exits. Green player coming into this region. Grey here and brown guarding the crossroads, forcing purple back. Red wisp falling here, and the purple wisp is caught in the gate. And now, if we look at this at a faster pace, see how the brown orc are trying to body block this area. As mentioned earlier, two orcs putting pressure here, and the other orc going straight away for the opposite side of the map because he's no longer needed for this round. So if you speed this up a little bit, you can see they are applying pressure to the blocker line of the purple player. He might try to jump out here and gets killed by the orc in this region. And that's how they properly surrounded and completed a full rotation, going from the west side of the map to the east side of the map. And that is all I wanted to show in this video. I hope you learned something, and thank you so much for watching, and see you another time.